Boker Tov. Today we are doing Kaf Daled Amud Bet. We're holding by the Mishnah on Kaf Daled Amud Bet. So the beginning of the Gemara is going to discuss a little bit about Gerut, just a drop about Gerut for the purposes of marriage. Is that okay? Is that not okay? So let's jump in and find out. So Hanit'an ala Shifcha. So if somebody is, like there are rumors going around about this person that he was together with a shifcha, and she became freed. O al ha'ovedet kochavim, or there were rumors going around about this person that he was having a relationship with a goya, v'nitgaira, and then this lady converted. So hareze lo yichnos. He's not allowed to be together with her. He's not allowed to marry her after she's freed, after the shifcha is freed, or after the goya converts. Ve'im kanas ein motzi'in miyado. And if he is kones, if he does marry her, we leave them. We don't force them to stay apart. Now hanit'an al eshet ish. If a person is suspected of Eshet Ish, there are rumors going around, claims going around that he was with an Eshet Ish, but we have no clear-cut proof. V'hotzi'uha, and they made her get divorced, mitachad yado, from her first husband. Afal pi shekanas yotzi, even though she married the second individual, yotzi, she has to divorce him. Okay? So more on that in the second half of the Amud. First things first, with regard to Shifcha and Goya, says the Gemara, you see clearly Hagiored miahavia. When it comes to the Goya, who a person was suspected of having a relationship with a Goya beforehand, there were claims going around that he had a relationship with her, and then she converted. We said L'chatchila, they're not allowed to be together. They're not allowed to marry each other after she converts. But if she could b'diavad, if they already got married, we don't separate them. But the Gemara says, regardless, what do you see? Hagiored mi'avia. You see that her gerut is a good gerut, even though she only converted just for the purpose of having. It seems like she converted just for the purpose of having a relationship with this man. You don't force them to separate. It's a good gerut. So the Gemara says, we have a braita that seems to say opposite of this. Seems to contradict this. It says echad ish shenitgayer leshum isha ve'echad isha shenitgayera leshum ish. Whether you have a man who converted to marry a Jewish woman or a woman who converted to marry a Jewish man, v'chein mi shenitgayer leshum shulchan melachim leshum avdei shlomo, or somebody who converted for shulchan melachim, meaning he sees the Jews are prosperous and he wants to join that prosperity, or avdei shlomo. Rashi explains they were also people who were Baalei Srara. They had, high, lofty positions. So he wants to convert for one of those reasons. Enan Gerin. They're not the Divrei Rabbi Nechemia. Rabbi Nechemia says that type of Gerut is not a good Gerut. Sh'er Rabbi Nechemia Omer, Chad Gerei Arayot, Chad Gerei Chalomot, Chad Gerei Mordechai ve'Esther. Whether they're Gerei Arayot, gerim that converted because of pressure from the lions, meaning out of fear, or gerei chalomot, or some Baal Chalomot comes to them and tells them that you have to convert. If you don't convert, XYZ is going to happen. They're convinced to convert through this Baal Chalomot. Or Echad Gerei Mordechai ve'Esther, or you have Gerei Mordechai ve'Esther that they kind of did their own makeshift conversion. It says V'rabim ma'amei ha'aretz midyahadim, they became Jewish, but it was during wartime, wasn't necessarily for the right reasons. Einam Gerim, they're not Gerim. That was the opinion of Rabbi Nechemia. Ad she'itgairu bizman hazeh, until they actually convert Bizman Hazeh. Now, what does that mean? Bizman Hazeh sel katatach. What? They can only convert Bizman Hazeh. So, Elaima ke Bizman Hazeh. They have to convert like Zman Hazeh, meaning in the conditions of Zman Hazeh that the Jews are not on top and not necessarily prosperous, and people would not want to join the Jewish nation for the wrong reasons. Either way, what do you see? You see it's a question against our Mishnah. Our Mishnah seemed to indicate that if a lady converts for the purpose of marrying a man, l'chatchila the man is not allowed to marry her. But b'diavad, if the man marries her, it's okay. Meaning her conversion is a good conversion. But Rabbi Nehemiah says that if a lady converts for the purpose of marrying a man, it's not a good conversion. So the Gemara says, Ha'itmar lam Rabbi Yitzchak bar Shemuel bar Marta mishmei derav halacha kedivrei ha'omer kulam gerim hem. Halacha does not follow Rabbi Nehemiah. Halacha is like the opinion that even if they converted for the purpose of marrying, or if they converted for the purpose of being they wanted to be prosperous like the Jews, it was gerei arayot, etc. For out of fear, they're kulam gerim hem. They are gerim. Now the sugya doesn't end here. You can't just learn the Gemara and Paskin, but this is where the sugya begins at least. So the Gemara says Yachi lechatchila nami. So the Gemara says 1 second. If you're telling me that a lady who converts for the purpose of marrying a man, it's a good conversion, so then why do we say that lechatchila they're not supposed to get married? Why do we say lechatchila they shouldn't get married? But b'diavad, if they got married, we don't make them separate. Well, if it's a good conversion, let them get married lechatchila. What's the problem? So the Gemara says, no. Mishum de Rav Asi. We have the reasoning of Rav Asi here. The Amar Rav Asi, Haser mimecha ikshut peh ve'lazut sfatayim. The pasuk says that a person should try to refrain from having rumors spread about him and having being gossiped about him. So if this person had a relationship with a goya, and then she converts, and then they get married, people are gonna, say, "Oh, you see, I knew they had a relationship beforehand. I knew that." So it's gonna lead to ikshut peh, lazut sfatayim. Therefore, that's why we say lechatchila, don't marry her after she converts. But b'diavad, if she converted, the conversion obviously is a good conversion, and they could marry. That's what so it comes out that the halacha of our Mishnah really has nothing to do with the status of her conversion. The halacha of our Mishnah is discussing a totally different thing, which is really the theme of the whole Mishnah, that it's about a chashad. We should refrain from doing certain things because people are gonna talk and it's gonna lead to lazut sfatayim. Tan Rabbanan, ein mekablin gerim limot HaMashiach. So the Braita says we will not accept gerim limot HaMashiach, the times of Mashiach. Kayotzebo lo kiblu gerim lo bimei David lo bimei Shlomo. They didn't accept gerim in the days of David or Shlomo HaMelech for similar reasons, because Am Yisrael was superior, was on top, and people wanted to join to kind of jump on the bandwagon, and not for the right reasons, not because they believed it's emet and to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but because this is what was popular and what was prosperous. Amar Rabbi changes it to Elazar. Amar Rabbi Elazar, Maikira. Where do you see this in the pasuk, that at the times of when Am Yisrael is on top, we don't accept gerim? It says hen gur yagur efes meoti migaritcha alecha yipol. So pasuk says hen gur yagur. If somebody wants to become a ger, efes meoti, should do it at a time where Hashem says, I'm not revealed, I'm not Am Yisrael is not on top. Migaritcha, whoever is a ger with you in the hard times, alecha yipol, he'll fall to you for the reward. Aval idach lo, but at other times, no. Then we don't accept gerim when Am Yisrael is bisrara. The Tosfot asks by David and Shlomo. We do find some instances of gerim. Shlomo converted his wives to marry, but Paro he married. You have Itai Hagiti from Gat, who presumably converted. So Tosfot deals with that. Interesting yesod that comes out according to one of the answers of Tosfot. He says that if it's very clear that they don't need the surara, she's already bat paro. What does she need? She already is a queen. She's already a princess. What does she need to convert for? So that might be a little bit different. Okay, either way. So second half of the Mishnah said hanit'an al eshet ish. If somebody is accused
Weren't the Arayot, the Gary Arayot, wasn't that in the time of David Melech?
Oh, the Givonim and the types, Kutim. So Tosfot explains that there's a difference between the this Gerei Arayot and the Gerei Arayot that we refer to when we talk about Kutim. Okay, well, let's continue. So the second half of the Mishnah said Hanitan al Eshed Ish, somebody who is, there's claims of him being together with an Eshed Ish. So if the husband divorces the wife, the whatever, the one who there are rumors about that was with the Eshed Ish, he's not allowed to marry her, and if he does, Motzi'in, we separate them. So the question is this someone who was verified as being with an Eshed Ish, like we have Edim, or it's just there's rumors, and even so we separate them. We say no, if you married it after rumors, no. So Amar Rav uve Edim. Rav says we're talking about a scenario where there's Edim. Amar Rav Sheshet argued, he said Amina kinaim v'shachiv Rav Amar lahashem atita. That he said when Rav was half asleep, he said this. It's not true. So in Machloket Rav and Rav Sheshet, Rav says that when do we say that they have to separate? If there's edim that he was together with her. But if there was no edim, labriut, and it's just a chashash, so then we don't make them separate based off of a chashash. And Rav Sheshet says no, we do make them separate also based off of a chashash. Now what's Rav Sheshet's proof? So Rav Sheshet bombs away. He says, Detanya, hanit'an al eshet ish vehotzi'uha. Says if somebody is, there claims that somebody was with an Eshet Ish, and hotzi'uha, they took her out, meaning they separated from her husband. Hotzi'uha al yadov nitgarsha. So because of this guy, they made her divorce her husband. I'm sorry. Hotzi'uha al yado. She divorced her husband. Nitgarsha mitachad yad acher. She married a random third man in between, and then she divorced from that man. So im kanas lo yotzi. If the original guy who was rumored to have been with the Eshet Ish marries her, lo yotzi, he can't. Then he doesn't have to divorce her. He doesn't have to separate from her. So the Gemara. So Rav Sheshet says echidam. Right. So the case is like this: that the guy, you have Reuven is accused of being with Eshet Shimon. And then you have a third guy. So Reuven is accused of being with Eshet Shimon. Shimon divorces his wife. She marries some third guy. He divorces her. And now Reuven comes back into the picture and marries her. So we say in that case, Lo Yotzi. He doesn't have to divorce her. We don't have to separate them. So says Rav Sheshet Echidami.
Oh, here we don't have Chashash.
Right. So that's exactly Rav Sheshet's proof. Beautiful. So it says Rav Sheshet Hechidami. Ideika edim. If there is edim, so kiata acher v'afseka lekala mayava. If some other guy came and the rumors calmed down because she married some third guy, so who cares? There's edim. She's asura to the boel. Doesn't make a difference. Elalav deleka edim. Isn't the whole case over here that there's no edim? V'ta'ama data acher v'afseka. And the whole reason that we don't separate them is because some third guy came in between and v'afseka lekala, he made a hefsek in the rumor and things died down a little bit. But halav hachi, if it wasn't for the third guy coming and marrying in between, mafkinan, we would cause her to divorce if she married the guy who's accused of being with her. So Amar Lamin Reuven. Amar lecha Rav huadin da'afal gav delo ata acher v'afseka. So Rav will tell you, no. Really, it's true even if a third guy didn't come and make a hefsek. V'afseka lekala. He didn't pause the rumors. He didn't come and marry her and have the rumors that die down. I'ika edim mafkinan. Ileka edim lo mafkinan. Really, always, if there is edim, then we're gonna separate the Reuven and Eshet Shimon, or the one who used to be Eshet Shimon. If there's no edim, then we're not going to separate them. So why over here Are we separating them? Are we not? Are we specifically talking about a case where a third man came in between? The chidush is, even though a third guy came and married her in the interim, and the voice of the rumors died down, still lechatchila he's not allowed to marry. Meaning that's the chidush over here. Not that they're allowed to stay together, and generally they wouldn't be allowed to stay together. The chidush is that still lechatchila Reuven is not allowed to marry the lady who used to be Eshet Shimon. He's not allowed to marry the lady who used to be Eshet Shimon because there was a chashash. But b'di'evet, if he did marry, they're allowed to stay together, even if there was no guy in between. Okay, so we're still at a standstill between Rav and Rav Sheshet. So Rav Sheshet asks again, when do we say that she has to separate if she married the one who was rumored to be with her? I mean, again, let's work with the same names. You have Reuven and you have Shimon. So Reuven was rumored to have been with Eshet Shimon. Shimon divorces his wife, and then Reuven marries her. So b'medvar, when do we say that Reuven has to separate from Eshet Shimon? Keshein labanim, when she doesn't have children. So machlok rishonim, who doesn't have children? She doesn't have children from Reuven or from Shimon. Rashi learns she doesn't have children from her original husband Shimon. Aval yesh labanim, but if she has children from her original husband, lo tetzeh, she doesn't have to divorce the second guy if she has children. Because if we make him divorce, then it's going to look like it was really true that he was with her, and we're going to be motzi laz on those children, that they're mamzerim. But what do you see? You see that if she has children, then they're able to stay together. If she doesn't have children, then I'm sorry, other way around. Right? If she doesn't have children, then they're able to stay together. But if she has children, then lo tetzeh, she's not forced to leave the second husband. But if witnesses come and they testify that it's for a fact that she was together with this boel, then afilu yesh la kama banim tetzeh, then even if she has multiple children, tetzeh, she has to leave him. She has to divorce the boel, the second guy. So what do you see from here? You see that the Reisha of the Mishnah was talking about even when there were no Edim. And still, it depends on whether or not there's children. It says, when does she have to separate? When is she allowed to stay together? When there's no children. But when does we said in the Reisha that if she has children, she doesn't have to separate. But if she does not have children, then she has to separate. So why would she have to separate if she doesn't have children if there's no edim? You're telling me, Rav, because of a chashash, we don't make them separate. You see from the Braita clearly that we do. So this is Rav Sheshet's attack on Rav. So says the Gemara, Rav Mukila the matnitin beyesh labanim. Rav says that our Mishnah is talking about a case where yesh labanim, where she does have children. Veyesh la'edim, and there are witnesses. So that's consistent with the Braita. She has children, and you have witnesses, and that's why she's separating from her husband. So the Gemara says, why is Rav so adamant on learning the Mishnah that way, that we're talking about a case where there's children and there's edim, and that's why she has to separate? V'tama deika edim mafkinan, v'ileka edim lo mafkinan. And the whole reason they have to separate is because you have edim. But if there were no edim, then you wouldn't separate because she has children. Look, meaning if it was just a chashash, she wouldn't separate because she has children. Look ma b'she'en la banim. Why doesn't Rav say that the case of the Mishnah is talking about that there's no children, and we're make them separate because of a chashash? V'afagav deleka edim, even though there's no edim, but we make them separate because of a chashash. So Amar Rava matnitin kashite. Rav really had our Mishnah was was difficult for him. The lashon on the Mishnah was difficult for him, and it forced him to explain things the way that he did. Ma'iria detani hotziuha. Why does it say hotziuha? Hotziuha sounds like Beit Din forced her to divorce. Litni hotzi'ah, which should just say hotzi'ah. Her husband decided to divorce her. Ela kol hotzi'uha bebeit din. When it says hotzi'uha, it means Beit Din forced her to divorce. Ubeit din be'edim hu demafki. And Beit Din forced to divorce when there's witnesses. So meaning really Rav would agree. According to this answer, Rav would agree that in a case where there's no children, then if it's just a chashash, we do make them separate. But in the case where there is children, you need edim. And our Mishnah is talking about a case where there is children and you need edim to separate Reuven from Eshet Shimon, and that's what's going on. Why does Rav choose to learn that our Mishnah is talking about that there's edim? Because it says hotziuha. They separated her from, meaning Beit Din forced them to get divorced. If Beit Din forced them to get divorced, that means that it was through edim. It says the Gemara another answer that v'bait ema okay v'bait ema hani matnita rebihi. Or I could tell you all of these braitas that say that we force them to separate because of a chashash is really according to the shita of Rebbe. Meaning Rav is telling you pshat in our Mishnah that it's not a chashash, there's edim, and we never make the one who's accused of being a boel separate from the wife if if there's no if there's no chashash, if there's only a chashash. We only make them separate if there's edim, and that's what Rav meant across the board. All these braitas that seem to indicate otherwise are going with the shita of Rebbe, that Rebbe holds because of a chashash we also make them separate. Now, where do you see what's Rebbe's shita? Detanya, Rochel yotze veisha chogeret besinar. A guy comes home and he sees a merchant is leaving his house, and somebody who's a rochel, he sells perfumes and things that ladies like to buy. He's somebody who's familiar with ladies. He's leaving, and he sees Isha Chogeret Besinar. The wife is, putting on her undergarment belt. Amar Rebbe, Hoelu Mechuar Hadavar Tetze. Since it's a Mechuar Hadavar, since it's something that looks really bad, so even though you have no edim, but you force them to divorce. Now, the way Rabbeinu Tam learns means you force. If she married the Rochel, Shimon, right? If she divorced her husband and she married the guy, the Boel Tetze. That's what Rabbi is talking about, according to Rabbeinu Tam. Rok lemala mina kila. All these different cases. There's spit on top of the curtain of the over the bed. Amarav hoel muchar davar tetze. Since it's mechuar davar tetze, manalim hafuchim. His shoes are upside down. It's a sign that there was a boel there, or tachat amita. They're upside down under the bed. So Amarav hoel muchar davar tetze. Since it looks bad, tetze manalim hafuchim lichzi demaninu. The Gemara says, "Wait a minute, you have upside down shoes. See whose shoes they belong to." Ela makom manalim hafuchim. You see the imprint on the floor of the shoes that were there. Let's just read a couple more lines because I have to go next door to Rabbi Heber. Hilchada v'ilchada kavatei de Rav, v'ilchada kavatei de Rebbe. So we say halacha is like Rav and halacha is like Rebbe. So on the one hand, Rav said when it comes to a chashash, you don't make them separate. Only when there's edim. And Rebbe says no, by a chashash also you make them separate. So we're saying halacha is like both. So it says the Gemara, kasha hilchata hilchata. It doesn't make sense. You can't have halacha like Rav and halacha like Rebbe. The Gemara says lo kasha. Ha bekala de pasik, ha bekala de lo pasik. It depends what type of rumor it is. Kala de lo pasik veleka edim. If it's a rumor that's a strong rumor and it's not stopping and there's no edim, kerebi. Over there we paskin like Rebbe, and she's tetzeh. Kala de pasik, but if it's a rumor that dies down, it stops after a little bit. Vika edim, and you have edim, then kerav. Then it's like Rav that you separate because of the edim. But if it's just a weak rumor, then you don't separate. So it depends how strong the rumor is. V'kal delo pasik ad kama. What's considered a strong rumor, a rumor that's lasting? So Amar Abaye says, Amar li'eh, my mother taught me that dumi de mata, the people who are chashad, the people who have a chashad on them, yoma upalga, it's a day and a half. V'lo amarna lo pasak bene bene. We're talking about that it didn't pause in between. The rumor went on for a day and a half. Everybody was buzzing about it. Aval pasak bene bene. But if it paused, for a few hours in between and it didn't go for the full day and a half, but there was a pause, so ha pasak it stopped. But that's only if the pause was not because of fear. Nobody instilled fear in the people to stop talking about it. But if it was pasak mahmad yira, it was because of fear. So the pause was because of fear, not because of not because the rumor died down. And it's also only talking about that there's no oivim, there's no enemies in the town. But if that guy has enemies in the town, so oivim hu da'afku lekala. The oivim are the ones that spread the rumor and made it go on for longer. Okay, so Adkan, we'll stop here, Be'ezrat Hashem. Okay, Chazak U'Baruch. Tomorrow I'm